Hi, this is video number 1 of Basic Watercolor Materials. This is the first of 4 mini videos in my watercolor materials series. Alright, let's begin. The first thing I'd like to talk about are the surfaces that you would be putting your watercolor paper on. The first thing that I recommend is Masonite. Masonite is really inexpensive and could be obtained at the Home Depot. They sell it in sheets and they will cut it for you there at the store without an extra charge. So Masonite is very, very helpful. Another material that you can use is something called Gator board. Gator board is obtained or purchased through a store like Cheap Joe's, and they're pretty expensive. They're very lightweight, but they look like Masonite and are water resistant. So that may be something to think about. For advanced painters, I think they're very nice. The next thing I would recommend is using, I'm going to put this down, plywood. Plain cut plywood. If you have it in your garage and it doesn't have any splinters on it, it wouldn't be bad. Make sure it's not really thin, because if it is, it'll warp. Put that down. And I've also known people to use breadboards and things that are around their house. So you could look around and you might have something that's ready to go, but you don't want cardboard, because that will warp. Next, I'll be talking about tapes. Masking tape is something that you'll be taping your paper down with. In my class, this is not the traditional method, but it'll work. And only buy 3M masking tape. I can't say that enough because the other brands will lift off. You may also buy 3M blue tape. This is not to be used for painting though, but you could use it for other purposes. But it's nice to have a little extra tape to tape stuff up without having to use your good masking tape. Another kind of tape students bring in frequently is something called artist tape. That is just as good as masking tape, but it's probably a little bit more expensive. So you have a choice between the masking tape and the artist tape, but both of these are outstanding. And let's move on to the sketchbook. You'll need a sketchbook. I don't care what size you have, but the best thing you can do is draw. And I tend to keep a sketchbook with me no matter where I go if I'm on vacation. And here's a little sketchbook of our cats, or a sketch of our cats from my living room. So please use your sketchbook. It's also to work out ideas. Moving on, you will need pencils. My personal favorite is a Staedtler HB pencil to draw directly on my watercolor paper. However, for sketching, I tend to like a plain old office pencil. This is a Ticonderoga, and I keep a latex cap on the top, so if I ever need a quick erase. And that's all. You probably have a million in your house. Another tool we will be using, and you must have, is a graphite stick. And they're like it looks like a pastel or a chalk, but it's not. It's really graphite. And it's the same material that's in a pencil. You will find these at Dick Blick and sometimes online, but you definitely have to ask for this because most people won't even know where to find it. The graphite stick, and it comes in anywhere from 6B to 9B. I think 6B is good. 9B starts getting really messy. So when I will show you in another video how to use this. And the last thing I like to keep in my bag of tricks is a Sharpie, fine point Sharpie. So just keep that available. And let's move on. You will need a kneaded eraser. And a kneaded eraser comes in a cube or in like a cube shape in a plastic. And when you get them, open them up and stretch it. Warm them up with your hands and then stretch it out. And what it is just a nice piece of like a latex rubber. And you can erase with that, but it doesn't destroy your paper. Kneaded eraser, great stuff. Next is a plain latex eraser we're all used to having. And this is great for regular corrections. There's another eraser that's made just for watercolor painters, and it's called a watercolor pickup eraser. And if you ask them at an art supply store, they're going to think, what's that? You know, but they do exist. And Dick Blick usually has them. However, if you're buying them online, again, I think you can get them through Amazon, and Cheap Joe's for sure should know what this is. So you'll need one of these. And the last eraser, or two erasers, more erasers. This is something you can pick up at your market, and it's a Mr. Clean magic eraser. And it's made for cleaning walls. And this particular one is in a sheet, but it comes in little cubes as well, or in blocks. And if you do a lot of painting, it's worth buying some of this, or you might want to experiment with it. But I like having this in my portfolio because this, or in my toolbox, because it's good for lifting off mistakes. And my very favorite eraser is a lint roller. And what I use it for is rolling off the extra graphite that is on your watercolor paper after you've done a drawing. And it's the same thing that's used for getting hair and lint off your clothes. You will need an X-Acto knife and points or blades. Nothing special, just a plain X-Acto knife. Now moving to the masking. You will need masking fluid. This is called Art Masking Fluid. This particular one is Winsor & Newton. This is a yellow, like a yellow tint in my masking fluid. I like that the best because you can see it when it's on your paper. And I'll do another video on masking fluid so you could see how to use it. But if you use a white masking fluid, it's difficult to find on your board. Do not buy permanent masking fluid because it'll never come off your paper. So just be really careful to read that it does not say permanent. There are a couple of other brands that are out there, and one might be Daniel Smith, and their masking fluid is excellent. You can always write me and I can tell you if it's good or not. All right, I'm going to move on to a water container. You need something not terribly small, not a little tiny container, but this is a 16-ounce container, which is absolutely perfect for me. You'll need paper towel and Kleenex. The paper towel, just try not to have a pattern on it, because if you ever went to blotch your paper, the pattern imprints onto the watercolor painting. And moving on, I like to have in my box a ruler, plain ruler, and I like to have a T-square for just generally cutting your papers, watercolor paper, and for measuring. And some weird accessories. A toothbrush. An old toothbrush is perfect for splattering. A bar of soap. This is travel soap, a small size. Salt. This is plain table salt, nothing special. And I also keep it in a shaker. So when I'm painting and I want a special effect, I can shake the salt. This was a medicine bottle, and I just punched holes at the bottom. Salt comes in different forms now, and this is a crystal salt. It's a thicker sea salt. If you have it on hand, you could bring it along into your kit. And it'll give you a bigger effect or a snowflake pattern rather than the fine Morton salt that we're used to using. And next, a plain spritzer bottle or a spray bottle you probably already have in the house. This is just to put water in and to spray your palette. And I'll talk about palettes in another video. And the last thing I'd like to talk about, oh, one thing I missed, two things actually. A blow dryer, a plain hair dryer. You'll need this in the studio. Not going to do you any good doing plein air, but it's great in the studio. And my favorite tool of all is my pencil sharpener. This is an old electric Panasonic, not available any longer, but the Panasonic sharpeners are really quite good. You could also use a battery operated sharpener, but they don't do quite as well. But that is absolutely my favorite. So I think I've about covered it. Oh, one more thing. You have to have something to carry your work in. And it doesn't have to be fancy like this. This is just a portfolio that I have. But you could use a red binder or anything to keep your work together and your paper safe. So that's it for materials, and I will have a couple of other videos attached to this. Thanks.
Okay.